My pomalu jistě přicházíme do sekce umění a proto asi většina z nás tady dneska je. Od collectibles, crypto art, opičky, koťátka, co vlastně chcete. A já teďka přivítám Viktora Mejzlika and I will immediately switch to English because the presentation will be in English. And Viktor Mejzlik is an art historian focusing on digital media and new technologies, currently working for the world-leading Art Fair Art Basel as an assistant in the unlimited section of 2022 show in Switzerland. Quite impressive. So, stage is yours.
Thank you very much. Does anyone know what is art?
Maybe, does anyone think he could know what it is? Yeah, in fact, it's a very difficult question to answer. Me, myself, as an art historian, I don't know myself what it actually is. Many theorists don't know, many artists don't know, and there's just no single pure definition that would describe what the art actually is. So I think we should rather focus on the characteristics of art. And one of the characteristics that I think you can see during the history from the ancient times till today is that art mediates abstract ideas through the material. And that material could be either physical, as we usually know it, but it could also be digital. It could be digits that can represent or materialize certain ideas. Dear ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my presentation about NFTs as a new artistic genre. In 2018, I've come across an academic discussion regarding tokenization of physical art assets with the aim of making art more accessible to the wider audience and especially to democratize the process of financing it. It was such a relevant question and the topic at the time. In 2018, you would already have things like Netflix for films or Spotify for music established, and there was a lot of discussion about when will something like Netflix or Spotify come to fine arts. Every discussion came to an end that this is not possible because fine arts have always been very material, and we need the physical material to represent certain abstract concepts. Before the COVID, we've already had a couple of fully digital genres established, but the problem with such genres was that, for example, we had video art from 70s, we had net art, which is basically an internet art. But the problem was that every time it would bridge to the physical institutions in the physical space. And by this bridging from the digital space to the physical space, you lose a lot of characteristics and a lot of layers of communication. Therefore, not only the artworks or actual concepts weren't fully understood, there was also the problem of transferring those ideas and transferring those layers of communication. 2020 or 19, COVID hit, and the same situation happened, but just reversed. We didn't have any more net art and video art and other digital genres in the physical institution, but physical institutions had to bridge to the digital realm. And for me as an art historian, it was an amazing time because probably some of you know project Google Arts from Google, which basically puts many databases from the major art institutions and museums together. And you can see those artworks in incredible detail, like I could have never seen in my physical life. I couldn't get so close to painting as I could on the internet. But there is one problem that already one theoretician, philosopher, Walter Benjamin described at the beginning of the 20th century, and that is the problem with aura. And he was speaking about the problem with reproducing artworks. And when we reproduce the artworks, it loses the aura. I couldn't imagine, or I can't imagine anyone from the normal wider audience paying for such an experience to look at the Mondrians, look at the Picassos, look at the Rembrandts on the Google Arts database, because they are missing this aura, that, immaterial connection in the physical world that you get with the physical objects. And there was a time when we went again, before the COVID, we remembered that we've already tried to tokenize artworks, but at this moment we realized we need to redefine the arts completely, so that they are not immaterial, so that they are immaterial. The technology that allowed us to do that is called blockchain. And today I'm not going to speak about technical stuff. I think there are people that can do it much better than me. I want to open your eyes. I want to open eyes to the people in the creative industry and try to describe certain characteristics blockchains and tokens offer. So first of all, blockchain is a time-based medium. We know time-based mediums such as films, music, etc. And time-based medium allows you to describe certain concepts way more effective than if you would do it without the time. So I'm going to give you an example. Let's take an example of 4 seasons. The concept of 4 seasons. Try to explain such a concept in a static image. That would be pretty complicated to do, right? You would have to work very clever with a composition. Maybe that wouldn't work, so you would deploy some kind of a diagram, but then you would have to accompany the diagram with a text. So you're already escaping to the other medium. There's just so much problem. I'm not saying it's not doable. There are artists that have done it, but I don't think to describe 4 seasons, a static image would be ideal for such a concept. But let's take a film, for example. With film, it's much easier. You can take 1-second sequence of each season, put one after another. You get a 4-second sequence that explains the basic concept of 4 seasons. How amazing. Another great thing is that in arts, people like to experience things. They like to feel emotions. And what you can also transfer through time is the sense of a rhythm. We are now somewhere in Central Europe, and we experience certain rhythms during our lives. For example, those 4 seasons. And you can, in those 4 seconds, you can give the audience the sense of a rhythm of actual living in this space, for example. On such a small scale, it's probably not that effective, but we all know how it feels like to experience films where such a feelings can transfer way more effective. Secondly, immateriality. I've already spoke about this a bit, but I think there are 2 layers. The first layer is the financial level. If you have something immaterial, it's going to be extremely cheap to produce, and it's also going to be extremely cheap to distribute. If you have a bronze sculpture that is made in the US, and then you have to transfer that sculpture, the bronze sculpture, by the airplane to the fair in Switzerland, and you have to sell the sculpture, and then you send it else somewhere, that's just extremely expensive, and not many people can afford such an experience. So by making it cheaper, the actual creation and distribution, we can reach wider audience. And it's going to change a lot of things, because not only rich people or people with certain capital can afford to buy something like that. It could be literally anyone with $1 in India that can interact with your project or with your artwork. Thirdly, digital interoperability. We all know that blockchain doesn't really work with the physical world. You have to still have someone executing those contracts that you define on the blockchain. But if you are fully in the digital realm and you think about digital interoperability in a more symbolic way, then it is probably the most digital interoperable medium we know. Let me give you an example again. If you have a film, you can connect film with sound to enhance it, to enhance experience from that film, and also to augment certain concepts in the film. If you have dialogue-based film, then the sound is probably going to be more % than in the action film or something like that. But with music, it's more complicated. You can connect, and this is a general example, you can connect music maybe with an album cover, which is a picture, but I personally don't know anyone who'd listen to the music because of the album cover, so it doesn't enhance that experience much. If you think about it in a symbolic way, connecting other mediums symbolically, and not thinking about the ownership and such a things, then it's probably the most interoperable medium I know. I understand blockchain is some kind of network, some kind of a grid, maybe a playground within which you can move figures. So what are those figures? If you have figures, you can tell the stories and explain concepts. Those figures are called tokens, and they also offer a unique mix of characteristics. So first of all is digital graspability. How can be something digital graspable if you can't grasp it? So if you have a JPEG and you upload the JPEG to the internet, you have literally no control over what's going to happen with it. You will never know how many times it's been copied. You don't know where it's been transferred. You don't know who interacted with it, who built something on top of it. And you also know how many times it's been deleted. With an NFT, especially with an NFT, this is different. If I have an NFT, which I have a full control of, and this, again, it is a general example, only myself, I can send it somewhere, I can interact with it, I can build something on top of it, or I can destroy it by burning. Next thing are sequences. We know sequences again from film and other genres, but on blockchain, sequences work more as in the video games. So you can either be building the sequence by owning or doing something with a token, or you can look from the outside on that sequence. Whereas with a film, you can only look on the film from the outside. And it's quite limiting. It's very similar to something we know from happenings in arts, we know from maybe theater. I'm not an expert on theater, maybe, and it's maybe video games. But here, it's open source, it's just a huge network, and you have so many possibilities to do. And lastly, mass distribution. I already spoke about it. It's sort of connected with immateriality, but I generally think in the future we'll see politicians using NFTs instead of donuts. We will see states making rewards in NFTs in a symbolic way. And by having a broader audience, because this medium is way cheaper, and it's actually graspable. We didn't have any other digital medium that would be graspable, such as tokens. So I spoke about some theory, and I want to show you how some projects or an example of the praxis, how you can take use of such a characteristics in some project. The project I picked up is Merge by PAG, which is an anonymous collective artists working closely with Sotheby's and other relevant institutions in the space. And so what is Merge? Merge is a set of rules defined in the smart contract. It is an artwork happening consisting of many NFTs, same as Mosaic consists of many pebbles. Here we have artwork on a blockchain that consists of many NFTs. It is a full on-chain project, so everything you need to have or to experience such a project is fully stored on a blockchain, and you only need an access to blockchain to interact. It is a place where merging events or competitions take place. It is a place where anyone can build or merge. And it is a place where you can influence or fight others. Very important skin in the game element. I said that every NFT, it's an artwork that's consisting of many NFTs. So when we want to understand this artwork, we first have to understand NFTs that are in this project. Every NFT has 5 properties. The first of them is mass. Mass represents the amount of prescribed mass or hypothetical weight of each token that is updated on the event called merge. I'm going to get to that later. Then we have alpha, which is dynamic number 0 or 1, 0 standing for no alpha, 1 representing yes alpha or D alpha. And then we have a tiers, which is basically number 1 to number 4, each representing certain relevancy in the structure I'm going to speak later, and also the visual, meaning 1 is white, 2 is yellow, 3 is blue, and 4 is red. And also the alpha represents the visual as well, which is the black one. Then we have a merges, that is the number of times a token has been merged. I'm going to explain the mechanics behind the merge later. And then we have a class, which is a number 0 to 99 that's derived from the last 2 digits of the token's ID. So if you have a token ID 9, you get class 9. If you have 99, you get class 99. If you have 1032, you get 2 last digits, so 32. So now we understand the properties, and now we can try to understand mechanics behind it. So merge is an event when 2 tokens merge. That's simple. So token A plus token B are going to be token C, or a new token. Every time you have 2 tokens in one wallet, they'll automatically merge. So you have no chance of having more tokens in one wallet. Then you have a mass, which updates on the event of merge, and that is number of mass token A plus number of mass token B. That influences also the size of the visual and relevancy in the structure again. Then we have a token ID, which is always inherited from the token, from the event of merge, with a bigger mass. Then we have a tier and alpha, again, visual and size. There are also some interesting mechanics. I don't want to be too complicated, but they're basically the relevancy structure. Then we have a merge counter, which is basically the counter of number of merges. To start such a project, you need initial distribution. And as I said, you can't have more than 1 NFT in one wallet. At the beginning, total of over 300,000 masses has been distributed to, I believe, something around 30,000 collectors, or wallets. We don't know whether each wallet was one collector, but let's assume it was like that. So if you have 1 mass, you get 1 NFT. If you have 10 mass, you get still 1 NFT. And if you have 99 mass, you get still 1 NFT per wallet. Based on this data from the initial distribution, we got a leaderboard. So top 1 is a dynamic number. So you can get the alpha every time you're the biggest mass in the system. So that's not that relevant for your leaderboard. Then you have a top 5, which is a static number, or static tier. Then we have top 100, others, and randomly distributed blue tokens. And this is basically creating another level of the structure. So we have a masses, that is the prescribed mass or hypothetical weight, and then we have another kind of a system, how we can differentiate between the tokens. Each visual of each token is updated every time the token merges. And in fact, it's defined in a scalable vector graphics, as you can see in the right corner in the text. So it's pretty simple. And based on certain rules that are defined in the smart contracts, every time a token has been merged, you get the new visual. It's fully on chain, and even 1,000 years later, if people will understand kind of our language, they can decode it very easily. So this is the alpha, that is top 1. This is the tier 4, that is red 1, that is top 5 from the initial mint. Then we have tier 3, which is the blue one, randomly distributed, again, defined in scalable vector graphics. Every time token merges, a new visual is defined. On the left, we always have the picture from the OpenSea, how OpenSea understands that visual. Here we have a tier 2, which is top 100 from the initial mint, yellow color. We can assume that if the collector had more masses, the visual would increase in size, that circle in the middle. And then we have tier 1, which is the white one. That is pretty small because the collector, I believe, had only 1 mass, so it's the smallest size you can have. I spoke about certain events or competitions that are happening on this platform because it is a platform. This is one of the examples you can find on this website, moss.black, which was initiated by the creator of this project. But interestingly, anyone here in this room can make such a competition on that platform. In this example, this is only one of the treasure hunts, I would call it. There are 36 tokens called Lazy Gold that you get for yellow tier 2 M tokens with most merges sorted in descending order of merges. So if you fulfill these rules, you will get the new token. You could also deploy different strategies. For example, you could make a contra competition so it would play in your cards, etc. I just spoke about something that one gentleman called mathematical art, but I think there are more human ways how we can interact with such artworks that are fully on the blockchain in numbers. And one of the ways you can do it is to visualize such data. And here I have an example how you can visualize. This is not the official visualization of the project. This is more of a fan-based visualization. So in the middle, we see the alpha. Around it, we see tier 4 red tokens. Around it, yellows. Then all mixed up with blue and white. We will also see during this video actual tokens merging. And it could remind us of the black hole, something we know from the science, space travel. this is data that is happening real time. It's also happening right now. Tokens are merging at this moment. This is, I think, from the beginning of the event. Yeah, so this is how it looks like. You might ask, what does this tell us about the society, about human, about what it's actually saying? During the history, people tend or have a need to imitate nature. And people don't live in a nature anymore. We live in modern cities, we live in modern houses, we live in modern society. And the way we can look at the nature is usually through the mediator. And one of these mediators is science. So I'm not trying to make a parallel between the physics and black holes and arts. I'm just trying to show you that the theory that ancient philosophers defined as mimesis, the need of imitating nature, is present also today. Thank you very much. I just have one little thing to show you. The first of which is this link, which is the website, unofficial website, when you can look for the tokens of the specific token ID. You can see the merging events happening. You can go back in history. So I really advise you to check this out. And if this was interesting for you, please check me out on the internet. Thank you very much.